For today's lecture, I will provide a brief introduction to our reading for today, John Foot's Winning at All Costs, A Scandalous History of Italian Soccer, and an even briefer look at the historical origins of the sport of soccer. Now, some of you have asked me about the historical origins of soccer in your responses to the first week of class, and I will try to respond to that request here. The two issues of Italian soccer and the historical origins of the sport are linked, as John Foot makes clear at the beginning of the introductory chapter of Winning at All Costs. In the early 20th century, Italians claimed to have been the inventors of soccer through the Renaissance sport of calcio fiorentina. And here you have to forgive my Italian, I'm a Germanist. However, considering that the earliest British reference to the sport is from a 9th century manuscript, Nennius's Historia Britonum, or History of Britain, which describes which describes a group of boys playing at ball, it seems that the Italian claim to have invented the game is somewhat far-fetched. If we look at the history of soccer, it seems that through the Middle Ages the sport took the form of mob football, with two village teams of indefinite numbers trying to heave an inflated pig's bladder to a goal line by any means, however violent. Kind of reminds me of Leeds United style in The Damned United. And it wasn't until 1863, with the formation of the Football Association, the FA, that's where the FA Cup comes from, the name comes from, that soccer becomes a recognisable, codified sport with rules and institutions. And note that the name soccer itself derives from the word association, from the middle part, soccer, and it was used to distinguish soccer from rugby football, which was founded in 1871. But for our purposes, I think it's more interesting to consider why Italians wanted to lay claim to being inventors of soccer. Throughout Foot's book, politics, and particularly nationalist politics, play an important role in the development of Italian soccer. This is apparent early on when Foot discusses attempts to remove foreign players from the Italian league, or the influence of the first manager, the Englishman William Garbett at Genoa, and the continued influence of the English language and English culture over that particular team. Note also that the Italian word for a manager, il mister, is obviously also a borrowing from English. Another theme that dominates both the first and last chapters of Foot's book is, of course, the various scandals to which his title refers. Now here, I don't want to suggest that the issues of political influence or corruption, or nationalist politics, or hooliganism, all these negative aspects that Foot focuses on in his study of Italian soccer, are restricted to Italian soccer. Clearly they permeate the footballing world as a whole. We only have to think, for example, of the recent scandals surrounding FIFA to realise that corruption is not limited to the Italian game, and we know from reading Fever Pitch that hooliganism was a long-standing problem in British soccer, and that will be reinforced when we discuss hooliganism next week in relation to Bill Buford's article, Among the Thugs. But I think Foot, in relation to Italian soccer, makes a convincing case that some of these questions came to a head in 2006. That year, Italy won the World Cup and found itself embroiled in an enormous bribery and match-fixing scandal that took down some of the biggest teams and names in the game. And I think by focusing on that year, 2006, Foot gives a portrait of Italian soccer that juxtaposes both the glories of the game, the successes of the game, with the extreme and indelible corruption that the game is also mired in. Thanks very much. Bye.